The quantum communication array hummed with an unexpected intensity. Commander Zixtera's primary sensory cluster pulsed with a mixture of anticipation and mild irritation. Another standard surveillance sweep of the primitive carbon-based species was underway, a task typically assigned to junior researchers. But something about this particular transmission felt different. Holographic displays erupted with a cacophony of color and motion. The initial data burst suggested an intercepted communication from a species designated as humans, a relatively young civilization barely pushing beyond their home planetary system. Previous reports had characterized them as technologically rudimentary, socially fractured, and of minimal galactic significance. The first images defied every preliminary assessment. A massive enclosed structure materialized in the holographic space, its interior a symphony of organized chaos. Thousands of bipedal creatures filled tiered seating, their collective energy creating a visual and auditory landscape that overwhelmed the Kolnar sensory filters. At the center of this maelstrom, 10 humans moved with a precision that immediately caught Commander Zixtera's attention. They were engaged in what the transmission labeled as basketball, a term that meant nothing to the alien observers. 2 teams of 5 individuals navigated a polished wooden surface with an intensity that suggested high-stakes military maneuvering. The spherical object they continuously passed and propelled looked like a weapon of strategic importance. Each movement was calculated. Each leap defied what the Kolnar understood about biological locomotion. One player, tall, muscular, wearing a vibrant blue uniform, suddenly exploded into motion. His body coiled like a compressed energy system, then launched upward with such force that Zixtera's junior researcher, Prelnox, actually vocalized a reflexive response of shock. The human seemed to defy gravitational constraints, rising well above the height of his competitors, and deposited the spherical object through a suspended circular target with surgical precision. The audience erupted. Thousands of voices merged into a sonic wave that would have overwhelmed most species' auditory systems. But the humans? They appeared to feed on this collective energy. The players slapped each other's appendages in ritualistic celebration, their movements suggesting a complex social bonding mechanism far more intricate than standard military unit cohesion. Prelnox's initial analysis scrolled across the secondary display. Preliminary assessment suggests ritualized combat training. Movement patterns indicate advanced tactical preparation. Gravitational manipulation techniques unprecedented in known galactic species. Commander Zixtera's sensory tendrils twitched with a combination of skepticism and growing fascination. This was no simple training exercise. The spatial awareness, the instantaneous communication between team members, the ability to predict and counter opponent movements. These suggested something far more complex. A replay sequence caught the commander's full attention. The same tall player from earlier received the spherical object in a seemingly impossible position, surrounded by 3 opponents, body twisted at an angle that should have compromised balance and mobility. In less than a quarter second, he transformed potential immobilization into a scoring opportunity. Rewind, Zixtera commanded. Analyze complete motion sequence. The holographic display complied, breaking down the movement into microsecond increments. Each replay revealed new layers of complexity. The human's body was not just a physical instrument, but a dynamic computational system, making calculations and adjustments faster than most advanced eye-tracking mechanisms. This was not combat training. This was something else entirely. Prepare a comprehensive report, Zixtera instructed Prelnox, and flag this transmission for immediate high-priority review by the Xenological Research Council. We may have significantly underestimated this species. The quantum array continued to pulse, carrying with it the first hint of a discovery that would reshape galactic understanding. The Kolnar Research Facility buzzed with an electricity unlike any previous investigation. Massive data streams from the human sports transmissions consumed every available computational resource. What had begun as a routine surveillance had transformed into an obsessive pursuit of understanding. Dr. Krelnack stood before a holographic reconstruction of a football match, her secondary neural clusters working overtime to process the visual chaos. The field looked like a battlefield, yet the participants moved with a choreography that defied simple combat interpretation. 22 humans divided into two groups, engaged in what appeared to be a ritualistic struggle over a uniquely shaped object. "Look at the precision," she muttered to Prelnox, who was meticulously cataloging movement patterns. The players communicated through a complex language of gestures, body positioning, and split-second decisions. One moment, they formed tight defensive formations. The next, they exploded into individual displays of athletic prowess that seemed to mock the very concept of physical limitation. A defensive line caught her attention. Massive humans positioned themselves in a configuration that suggested maximum protection. Yet this was no military formation. The quarterback, a term the humans used with almost reverent significance, stood behind this living barrier, scanning the field with an intensity that suggested computational levels of strategic thinking. The ball was more than an object. It was a focal point of collective intention. Prelnax's data analysis began to reveal patterns that challenged everything in the Kolnar understanding of physical engagement. Each player seemed to operate as both an individual and a collective organism. A wide receiver's route was not just a movement, but a complex mathematical equation of space, time, and predictive positioning. Another transmission arrived, this time, a sport called rugby. If football had seemed intense, rugby appeared to be an unbridled expression of physical capability. Humans collided with a force that would shatter most known species. They grappled, lifted, and hurled themselves at each other with what could only be described as controlled chaos. "Are you seeing this?" Dr. Krelnack zoomed in on a particular sequence. A player had just been tackled with enough force to crush most biological systems. Yet within moments, he was back on his feet, ready to continue the engagement. The human capacity for immediate recovery defied all known physiological models. The research team began categorizing these sports into increasingly complex classifications. Rugby wasn't just a physical contest. It was a test of endurance, strategy, and collective willpower. Each collision was a negotiation of physical and mental boundaries. Baseball presented an entirely different puzzle. The precision required was astronomical. A small spherical object hurled at incredible speeds, a defender attempting to strike it with a narrow cylindrical implement. The mathematics alone were mind-boggling. Success rates were minimal, yet humans celebrated even the most challenging attempts with a cultural ritual of appreciation. Prelnox's latest report scrolled across the primary display. Hypothesis: human sports are not preparatory combat training, but a complex social and psychological mechanism for exploring physical and mental limitations. Dr. Krelnax felt something akin to excitement, a rare emotion for her clinical species. These weren't just athletic events. They were living laboratories of human potential. Each sport revealed layers of complexity that suggested these beings were far more than they appeared. A hockey transmission added another layer of complexity. Humans balanced on thin metal blades, moving at speeds that would destabilize most navigation systems. They wielded long implements, engaged in high-speed interactions that required instantaneous decision-making, all while maintaining balance on a surface designed to be treacherous. "We're missing something fundamental," Dr. Krelnax announced to the research team. The human sports were not just physical activities. They were a language, a method of communication that transcended verbal and written forms. Each movement told a story of human resilience, creativity, and an inexhaustible drive to push beyond perceived limitations. The Galactic Research Council would need more than a standard report. They would need a complete reimagining of what it meant to be a sentient, competitive species. The investigation continued, each transmission promising to unravel another layer of the most perplexing species the Kolnar had ever encountered. The breakthrough came during an analysis of human Olympic competitions. Dr. Krelnax had been awake for 72 consecutive cycles, her neural clusters processing information that challenged every fundamental understanding of species development and psychological resilience. A transmission of Paralympic athletes stopped her mid-analysis. A human with artificial lower limbs launched themselves into a swimming pool with such raw determination that the entire research team fell silent. The prosthetic appendages were not limitations but extensions of human will. Each stroke became a defiance of biological constraints, a statement more powerful than any verbal communication. "Recalibrate primary analysis parameters," she commanded, her voice resonating with a rare emotional undertone. Prelnox pulled up the athlete's biographical data. A traumatic incident had removed the human's biological limbs, yet here they were, competing at the highest level of athletic performance. The medical record showed multiple surgeries, years of rehabilitation, and an unquantifiable force the Kolnar could only describe as spirit. Gymnastic competitions revealed another layer of human complexity. Young humans, some barely past developmental stages, performed physical routines that integrated mathematical precision with artistic expression. A young woman on the balance beam transformed a simple piece of equipment into a three-dimensional canvas of human potential. Each movement told a story beyond physical capability. The research team began to understand that human sports were not about winning or losing. They were elaborate narratives of personal and collective transformation. A marathon runner pushing through complete physical exhaustion wasn't just a display of endurance. It was a living metaphor of human consciousness. Dr. Krelnax isolated a sequence from an extreme mountain climbing expedition. Humans voluntarily placed themselves in environments designed to challenge survival itself. Freezing temperatures, oxygen-depleted atmospheres, terrain that would destroy most biological systems, and yet they persisted. One transmission captured a climber helping a struggling competitor, sacrificing personal achievement for collective survival. This was not a military strategy. This was something far more profound. "We've been interpreting their data incorrectly," Dr. Krelnax announced to the research team. "These are not competitions. These are controlled experiments in human potential." Rock climbing showed mathematical precision merged with raw emotional courage. Each movement was a complex equation of risk, strength, and psychological commitment. Humans didn't just climb mountains. They engaged in a dialogue with physical limitations. The psychological profile emerging defied all known species models. Humans transformed pain into motivation. Failure was not a stopping point, but a method of learning. A tennis player losing a championship match would analyze their performance with scientific precision, using defeat as a tool for future growth. Extreme sports presented the most baffling data. Humans voluntarily engaged in activities with high probability of physical damage. Surfing massive oceanic waves, diving from incredible heights, navigating treacherous mountain terrains, these were not acts of recklessness. They were sophisticated explorations of human capability. Prelnox's latest computational model suggested a revolutionary concept. Human sports were a method of continuous species evolution. Each challenge was a controlled experiment in pushing biological and psychological boundaries. A synchronized swimming routine became a mathematical ballet. Perfect timing, impossible body control, a collective movement that suggested these beings could function as both individuals and a unified organism. The precision suggested levels of communication far beyond verbal or electronic transmission. The research facility's primary display shifted to show a compilation of human athletic achievements. Children with prosthetic limbs learning sports, elderly individuals completing marathon races, athletes recovering from career-ending injuries. Each image was a testament to something the Kolnar were only beginning to comprehend. "They are not a species," Dr. Krelnax whispered. "They are a continuous state of becoming." The Galactic Research Council would receive a report that would fundamentally challenge every existing understanding of sentient species development. Humans were not just a biological entity. They were a living, breathing experiment in potential itself. The Galactic Council chambers fell into an uncharacteristic silence as the preliminary report from the human sports research team was presented. Commander Zixtera's holographic projection flickered with an intensity that suggested internal conflict. "This is not a species," she began, her voice modulating between clinical analysis and something approximating awe. This is a living weapon of potential. Chess became the first comprehensive example. The research team had initially dismissed it as a simple strategic game. Now they understood it was a microcosm of human cognitive capability. Each match was a battlefield where biological limitations were mere suggestions, not constraints. Grandmaster recordings revealed something extraordinary. A human chess player didn't just move pieces. They constructed entire universes of potential outcomes, calculating millions of potential scenarios in milliseconds. The mental landscape of a chess master was more complex than most advanced artificial intelligence systems. Prelnox displayed a comparative analysis. Where most species approached strategic thinking linearly, humans operated in multidimensional cognitive spaces. A chess player anticipated not just the next move, but potential moves 10, 20, 50 iterations into the future. Each decision was a complex negotiation between intuition, mathematical precision, and psychological warfare. Competitive programming competitions presented another layer of human capability. Young humans solved complex algorithmic challenges that would challenge entire research institutions. They transformed abstract mathematical concepts into living, breathing solutions with a creativity that defied computational models. The Kolnar began to understand that human sports were not just physical or mental exercises. They were sophisticated training grounds for species-wide problem-solving. Marathon running emerged as a particularly fascinating study. Humans voluntarily subjected themselves to extreme physical and mental challenges. A marathon was not just a race. It was a negotiation with personal limitations, a systematic deconstruction of what was considered possible. Dr. Krelnax isolated a series of physiological data that challenged every known biological model. Marathon runners demonstrated an ability to regulate internal systems that suggested near miraculous adaptive capabilities. Their bodies became living laboratories of human potential. Look at the neurological patterns, she emphasized to the council members. A marathon runner's brain didn't just manage physical exertion. It constructed elaborate motivational landscapes, creating internal narratives of survival and achievement that actively modified physiological responses. Competitive esports introduced another dimension of human capability. Young humans navigated complex digital environments with reaction speeds that approached theoretical limits. A professional video game player processed visual information and made strategic decisions faster than most advanced combat AI systems. The research team's report began to take a shape that was more warning than scientific analysis. Humans were not just a species. They were a continuous, adaptive system of potential. Rock climbing presented a perfect metaphor. Humans voluntarily placed themselves in environments designed to challenge survival itself. Each movement was a complex negotiation between physical capability, psychological resilience, and mathematical precision. A transmission of free solo climbing, where humans scaled massive rock formations without safety equipment, nearly overwhelmed the research team's comprehension circuits. This was not recklessness. This was a species that had transformed risk into a form of philosophical exploration. Prelnox's computational model suggested something revolutionary. Human sports were not competitions. They were controlled experiments in species evolution. Each challenge was a method of pushing biological, psychological, and collective boundaries. "We are not looking at a species," Commander Zixtera concluded her report to the Galactic Council. "We are observing a dynamic, self-modifying system of potential. Their sports are not training. They are a method of continuous transformation." The council chamber remained silent. The implications were clear. Humans were not just another species to be categorized and understood. They were a fundamental redefining of what sentience could mean. The most dangerous weapon was not in their technological arsenal. It was their ability to transform limitation into possibility. The emotional analysis department of the Kolnar research team had never faced a challenge quite like human sports. What began as a clinical investigation had transformed into something far more complex, a deep exploration of a species' psychological infrastructure. Dr. Liranex, The lead sino-emotional researcher stood before a holographic display of human athletic documentaries. Each transmission peeled back another layer of a profoundly intricate emotional landscape. These were not mere recordings of physical achievement. They were living narratives of human resilience. A documentary about Olympic athletes revealed something unprecedented. Humans did not just compete. They constructed elaborate emotional architectures around their challenges. The story of a gymnast recovering from a career-threatening injury became a focal point of analysis. Years of rehabilitation, moments of profound doubt, and an inexplicable drive to return to competition defied every known psychological model. Where most species would accept limitation, this human reconstructed her entire physical and emotional reality. Prellnox compiled a comprehensive emotional mapping. Each athletic journey was a complex narrative of personal transformation. A swimmer who lost mobility in one limb didn't accept defeat. Instead, they reimagined their entire approach to the sport, developing techniques that challenged fundamental understanding of physical capability. Paralympic competitions became a profound study of human emotional engineering. Athletes with significant physical challenges didn't just participate. They redefined the very concept of human potential. A runner with prosthetic limbs didn't just compete. They transformed physical limitation into a powerful statement of human spirit. The research team discovered something far more dangerous than physical capability. Humans had developed an emotional resilience that functioned as a sophisticated survival mechanism. Team sport documentaries exposed another layer of emotional complexity. Basketball, football, soccer. These were not simply competitive events. They were elaborate social rituals that transformed individual emotional experiences into collective narratives of achievement. One transmission captured a moment that nearly overwhelmed the research team's emotional analysis protocols. During a crucial championship match, a team's senior member suffered a potentially career-ending injury. Instead of despair, the team responded with a collective emotional response that amplified their competitive spirit. They are converting emotional pain into motivational energy, Dr. Lirenex noted, her neural clusters working overtime to process the phenomenon. Humans didn't just manage emotions, they weaponized them. Individual sports presented an equally fascinating study: tennis players, swimmers, track athletes. Each competition was a complex negotiation between personal limitation and extraordinary potential. A marathon runner pushing through complete physical exhaustion wasn't just demonstrating physical endurance. They were constructing a living narrative of human capability. The emotional mapping revealed a sophisticated internal system. Humans didn't just respond to challenges. They anticipated them, constructed elaborate psychological frameworks to manage them, and transformed potential defeat into opportunities for growth. A rock climbing documentary became a perfect metaphor. Climbers didn't just navigate physical terrain. They engaged in a constant emotional dialogue with their own potential. Each movement was a negotiation between fear, ambition, and an inexhaustible drive to expand personal boundaries. Prellnox's computational models struggle to quantify this emotional infrastructure. Traditional psychological frameworks collapsed when confronted with human emotional complexity. Where most species saw obstacles, humans saw opportunities for transformation. The most profound discovery came from analyzing human responses to failure. Unlike most known species, humans didn't view defeat as a terminal condition. Each loss became a sophisticated learning mechanism, a method of emotional and physical recalibration. They are not just a species, Dr. Lirenex reported to the Galactic Council. They are a continuous emotional and physical adaptation system. Their sports are not competitions. They are living laboratories of human potential. The emotional weapon was not aggression or physical capability. It was an unprecedented ability to transform challenge into opportunity, pain into motivation, limitation into possibility. The Kolnar research team had discovered something far more dangerous than a physically capable species. They had encountered a species that could reconstruct reality through sheer emotional will. The first direct cultural exchange would be nothing like the Kolnar research team anticipated. What began as a carefully orchestrated diplomatic mission transformed into an unexpected immersion into human social dynamics. Commander Zixtera's diplomatic vessel landed in a place called Cleveland, a human urban center that defied all previous computational models of social organization. The initial plan had been a controlled clinical observation. Reality proved far more complex. A local community center became the unexpected site of first meaningful contact. The humans were hosting a youth basketball tournament, an event that looked like nothing the alien delegation had expected. Children of various ages, physical capabilities, and social backgrounds moved together with a collective energy that challenged every preconceived notion of competitive interaction. Prelnox's initial sensory readings went into complete disarray. These were not simple competitive exercises. Each game was a sophisticated social ritual that transcended physical achievement. A young player with mobility challenges was integrated seamlessly into the team. The other children didn't treat this as an accommodation. They moved with a collective intelligence that suggested a fundamental understanding of team dynamics far beyond simple competition. The diplomatic team watched in stunned silence. One moment captured the essence of human complexity. A team was losing significantly in the final moments of a match. Instead of displaying frustration, the players increased their collective effort. Coaches didn't just instruct. They engaged in a complex emotional dialogue that transformed potential defeat into a learning experience. Dr. Krelnax noted something extraordinary in her preliminary report. These were not just children playing a game. They were engaging in a sophisticated method of social and emotional education. An elderly human volunteer approached the alien delegation. The diplomatic protocol suggested caution. What followed defied every anticipated interaction model. "Would you like to join a game?" the volunteer asked, with a complexity of invitation that suggested multiple layers of social engagement. Commander Zixtera's initial response protocols momentarily failed. This was not a standard diplomatic interaction. This was an invitation to participate, to understand through direct experience. The community center revealed layers of human social complexity that no research transmission could have prepared them for. Children from different social backgrounds moved together with a collective intelligence that suggested a fundamental approach to social integration entirely different from any known galactic model. Coaching became a revelation. These were not simple instructional interactions. Coaches engaged in complex emotional and psychological guidance that transformed athletic activities into sophisticated personal development mechanisms. A volleyball match between local community teams provided another layer of understanding. Players didn't just compete. They constructed elaborate social narratives of mutual support, personal growth, and collective achievement. Prelnox's computational models began to recalibrate. Human sports were not competitions. They were living social laboratories where complex emotional and psychological interactions were tested and refined. The diplomatic team's initial mission of assessment transformed into something far more profound. They were not just observing a species. They were witnessing a sophisticated method of social and personal evolution. An impromptu street basketball game near the community center added another dimension. Players who were complete strangers moments before engaged in a complex social dance of cooperation, competition, and mutual respect. Dr. Krelnax's report to the Galactic Council would be unlike any previous diplomatic assessment. These were not just athletic activities. They were sophisticated social technologies that transformed individual potential into collective achievement. The most dangerous aspect of human sports was not physical capability. It was an unprecedented ability to transform individual differences into collective strength. As the diplomatic team prepared to return to their vessel, Commander Zixtera realized something fundamental had changed. They had not just observed a species. They had been invited to understand a completely different approach to social existence. The cultural shock was complete. Humans were not just a species to be studied. They were a continuously evolving social mechanism that transformed challenge into opportunity, difference into strength. The Galactic Council chamber had never witnessed a presentation quite like this. Commander Zixtera's holographic projection carried an energy that suggested something fundamental had changed in their understanding of sentient species. "Humans are not what we thought," she began, her neural clusters pulsing with a mixture of scientific precision and something approaching reverence. The comprehensive report on human sports was about to redefine galactic understanding of species potential. Comprehensive data streams illuminated the central display. Olympic training facilities became living laboratories of human capability. Each training session was a sophisticated method of pushing biological and psychological boundaries that defied every known evolutionary model. A transmission from a cutting-edge sports science facility revealed the true depth of human potential. Athletes weren't just training. They were engaged in a continuous process of biological and psychological redesign. Nutritional science, psychological conditioning, technological augmentation. Humans approached physical performance as a holistic system of transformation. Prelnox's computational analysis demonstrated something extraordinary. Human athletes didn't just improve individual capabilities. They created entire ecosystems of performance enhancement that integrated technological innovation, psychological training, and collective knowledge sharing. The most shocking revelations came from Paralympic and adaptive sports research. Humans didn't view physical limitations as obstacles. They transformed them into opportunities for innovation. A swimmer with reduced mobility didn't just adapt. They reimagined entire approaches to athletic performance. Neural mapping of athletes during extreme training revealed a cognitive flexibility that challenged fundamental understanding of biological adaptation. The human brain didn't just respond to challenges. It actively reconstructed neural pathways to overcome limitations. A comprehensive study of chess grandmasters provided additional insight. These were not just competitive players. They were living examples of human cognitive engineering. Each match was a sophisticated method of psychological and strategic development that extended far beyond the game itself. Sports research added another layer of complexity. Young humans navigated digital environments with cognitive speeds that approached theoretical limits. Professional gamers demonstrated reaction times and strategic thinking that rivaled the most advanced artificial intelligence systems. Dr. Krelnax's emotional analysis team discovered something profound. Human sports were not just physical or mental competitions. They were sophisticated social technologies for personal and collective transformation. The research team compiled a revolutionary report that would reshape galactic understanding. Humans approached performance as a continuous adaptive system. Where most species saw limitations, humans saw opportunities for redesign. Extreme sports transmissions provided perfect metaphorical evidence. Free solo climbers, ultra-marathon runners, deep-sea divers, these were not reckless individuals. They were living laboratories of human potential, continuously pushing the boundaries of biological and psychological capability. The most unexpected discovery came from team sports research. These were not simple competitive activities. They were complex social mechanisms for integrating diverse individuals into cohesive high-performance units. A basketball team wasn't just a group of athletes. It was a living, adaptive social organism. Technological augmentation research revealed another layer of human innovation. Prosthetic technologies, advanced training methodologies, psychological conditioning. Humans approached performance enhancement as a holistic, integrated system of continuous improvement. Prelnox's final computational model suggested something revolutionary. Human sports were not competitions. They were controlled experiments in species evolution, methods of pushing biological, psychological, and social boundaries. "We are not observing a species," Commander Zixtera concluded her presentation to the stunned Galactic Council. "We are witnessing a dynamic, self-modifying system of potential that transforms limitation into opportunity." The council chamber fell into a profound silence. The implications were clear. Humans were not just another species to be categorized and understood. They were a fundamental redefinition of what sentience could mean. The most dangerous capability was not in their technological arsenal. It was their unprecedented ability to transform challenge into possibility, limitation into potential. Galactic recognition was complete. Humans were no longer a species to be studied. They were a continuous, adaptive system of evolutionary potential. The first true diplomatic meeting between humans and the Galactic Council would not occur in a sterile conference room. It happened on a basketball court in a small community center, where the fundamental nature of human potential would be revealed in ways no one could have anticipated. Commander Zixtera arrived with the entire Kolnar diplomatic corps, their sophisticated neural interfaces preparing for a standard first contact protocol. Reality defied every anticipated scenario. The community center buzzed with an energy that immediately challenged every preconceived notion of diplomatic interaction. Children played alongside adults. Athletes with different physical capabilities moved together with a collective intelligence that suggested something far more profound than simple inclusion. A local coach approached the alien delegation. Where most species would approach an unknown entity with caution, this human extended an unexpected invitation. "Would you like to learn?" he asked, holding a basketball with a simplicity that suggested infinite complexity. Prelnox's computational systems nearly overloaded. This was not a standard diplomatic greeting. This was an invitation to understanding that transcended verbal communication. The first lesson revealed the true depth of human potential. Basketball was not just a game. It was a sophisticated method of teaching collective problem-solving, emotional intelligence, and adaptive thinking. Each pass, each strategic movement became a living lesson in cooperation and individual potential. Commander Zixtera found herself participating, her alien physiology adapting to movements that challenged fundamental understanding of physical interaction. The human coach didn't just instruct. He guided, creating a learning environment that transformed potential limitations into opportunities for growth. Nearby, a Paralympic training session added another layer of complexity. Athletes with diverse physical capabilities worked together, developing techniques that reimagined the very concept of athletic performance. A runner with prosthetic limbs demonstrated a level of adaptive innovation that challenged every known biological model. The diplomatic team's initial mission of assessment transformed into something far more profound. These were not just athletic activities. They were sophisticated social technologies for personal and collective transformation. Dr. Krelnax observed a chess tournament happening simultaneously in another part of the center. Young humans engaged in mental competitions that suggested something far beyond simple gameplay. Each match was a sophisticated dialogue of strategic thinking, emotional control, and continuous learning. The most unexpected revelation came from the simplest interactions. Children from different backgrounds moved together with a collective intelligence that suggested a fundamental approach to social integration entirely different from any known galactic model. Prelnox's computational models began to recalibrate. Human sports were not competitions. They were living social laboratories where complex emotional and psychological interactions were tested and refined. A volleyball match between local community teams provided another perspective. Players didn't just compete. They constructed elaborate social narratives of mutual support, personal growth, and collective achievement. The diplomatic corps watched in stunned silence as humans transformed what appeared to be simple athletic activities into sophisticated methods of personal and collective development. Commander Zixtera's report to the Galactic Council would be unlike any previous diplomatic assessment. These were not just a species with athletic capabilities. They were a continuously evolving social mechanism that transformed challenge into opportunity, difference into strength. The basketball court became a metaphor for human potential. Each movement, each interaction suggested something far more profound than physical competition. This was a species that had transformed limitation into its most powerful resource. As the day progressed, the alien delegation realized something fundamental had changed. They had not just observed a species. They had been invited to understand a completely different approach to existence. The most dangerous capability of humans was not in their physical or technological achievements. It was their unprecedented ability to transform individual potential into collective strength, to see opportunity where others saw limitation. Galactic recognition was complete. Humans were no longer a species to be studied or categorized. They were a living, breathing testament to the potential of adaptive intelligence. The basketball bounced between players, humans and aliens alike, a simple sphere that now represented something far more significant. A new paradigm of understanding had begun.